You think you're eating your way younger, but 3 of the foods on your grocery list could be quietly doing the opposite. Stop eating #3. Over the next few minutes, I'll show you 5 foods that wear a healthy label in marketing and on menus, explain the exact conditions where they can accelerate markers linked to biological aging, and give you clear, low-effort swaps so you keep the benefits without the hidden costs. First, a quick promise. I'm not here to shame your choices or to tell you to toss whole food groups. I'm here to point out how form, sourcing, and preparation change a food's effects. When we look at mechanisms like oxidative stress, chronic inflammation, insulin spikes, and contaminant burden, the same item that can protect your cells in one form can harm them in another. If you want more myth-busting food tips, hit subscribe now, and let's get into it. Olive oil. Myth, liquid longevity. The image is powerful. Golden oil drizzling over a salad, Mediterranean grandparents living free of chronic disease. That reputation isn't accidental. Extra virgin olive oil, EVOL, is rich in polyphenols and monounsaturated fats that, in cold uses, support heart health and cellular resilience. The pivot, heat, is the saboteur. When EVO is heated to high temperatures, many of those protective polyphenols break down, and the fat molecules begin to oxidize. Oxidized fats are what I like to call internal rust. They generate free radicals and pro-oxidant compounds that stress cell membranes and proteins. In plain language, frying an EVOL can turn a potential antioxidant elixir into a source of oxidative damage. Research noted in nutrition discussions has repeatedly shown that heat destroys many of olive oil's beneficial compounds and that oxidized oils are linked to markers of inflammation. So what do? Rule of thumb, reserve extra virgin olive oil for raw and low-heat uses, dressings, drizzles, finishing a dish after it cooks. For higher heat cooking, choose a more heat-stable fat. Avocado oil with a high smoke point, refined olive oil designed for cooking, or traditional saturated options like ghee if that fits your diet. Keep your bottles away from light and heat at home. Light and long storage accelerate oxidation even when you're not cooking. Tagline, olive oil, drizzle, don't fry. Farmed salmon and poorly sourced fish. Myth, omega-3 powerhouse. Salmon has been elevated to near superfood status because of its omega-3 fatty acids, which help with cell membrane integrity, inflammation control, and brain function. The pivot, not all salmon is created equal. Farmed salmon can differ significantly from wild-caught varieties in both nutrient profile and contaminant exposure. Some farmed fish are fed processed feeds and live in crowded pens, which can reduce their omega-3 content and increase their load of contaminants. Add to that common restaurant preparations, deep frying, heavy smoking, or cooking with burned fats, and you can end up with a meal that increases oxidative stress more than it delivers protection. What's the mechanism? Lower omega-3 density means fewer of the anti-inflammatory building blocks making it to your cells. Contaminants that accumulate in some farmed fish can interfere with metabolic pathways and raise the body's detox burden, which over time is linked to markers associated with accelerated biological aging. Studies and food supply investigations referenced in nutrition conversations have raised these concerns and point to sourcing as the central issue. Actionable guidance. When possible, choose wild-caught salmon. Alaskan or sockeye varieties tend to have better omega-3 profiles and lower contaminant risks. If wild-caught is out of reach, prioritize cooking methods that minimize additional oxidation and don't deep fry. If you avoid fish or want to diversify, incorporate plant-based omega-3 sources like flaxseed, chia, and walnuts, and consider a reputable algae-based EPA/DHA supplement if your healthcare provider agrees. Tagline, salmon, source matters. Dark chocolate. Myth, antioxidant dessert. This is the dramatic stop-in-place item, the one I want you to hear loud and clear. Stop eating X3, at least in the common commercial candy bar form. Here's why. Cocoa does contain flavonoids and polyphenols that can act as antioxidants in small amounts and in minimally processed cacao. But the commercial dark chocolate you find in many supermarkets is often a candy, high in sugar, low in real cacao percentage, and loaded with added fats and emulsifiers. Sugar is not just empty calories. Frequent sugar spikes drive insulin surges, cause glycation, a process that stiffens proteins and collagen, and feed chronic low-grade inflammation, all pathways linked to accelerated biological aging. In short, sugar can negate the hormetic benefits that cacao might offer. Mechanistically, high sugar chocolate produces two simultaneous problems. It overloads the body's insulin response, and it dilutes or destroys those beneficial cocoa compounds through processing and added ingredients. Many clinical and observational discussions point out that chocolate benefits appear most clearly when cacao content is high and sugar content is low. That's why this item gets the dramatic stop, because the form most people are eating is candy, not nutrient-dense cacao. Immediate swap. Stop buying candy bars labeled dark that have long ingredient lists. Instead, choose single-origin dark chocolate that is at least 70% cacao or higher with minimal added sugars. Alternate with cacao nibs for a crunchy, low-sugar source of the same compounds. Practice portion control, 1 or 2 small squares, not a whole bar. Consider making a low-sugar hot cacao with pure cacao powder and just a touch of natural sweetener. Or add a square of 85% chocolate as a mindful ritual. Tagline: dark chocolate, stop eating the candy. Fermented foods. Myth: gut time machine. The menu of modern health advice loves fermented products: kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha, yogurt, kefir. In theory, these foods seed your gut with probiotics and produce beneficial metabolites that support digestion and immune balance. The pivot: many commercial fermented products are not the traditional probiotic-rich items people assume. Some are pasteurized after fermentation, which destroys live cultures. Others are aggressively sweetened, especially some kombuchas and flavored products, turning a probiotic beverage into a sugar source that feeds inflammatory bacteria. And then there are industrially produced ferments that rely on vinegar or heat rather than true lactic fermentation, providing flavor without the probiotic benefits. Mechanism: probiotics can support a balanced microbiome that interacts with immune and inflammatory pathways. But if the product is pasteurized, sweetened, or full of additives, you lose that mechanism and potentially add fuel to the fire in the form of excess sugar or inflammatory emulsifiers. Some supermarket kombuchas advertise probiotics but contain more sugar than you'd expect. And excess alcohol in poorly regulated brews can also be a problem for some people. What to choose instead? Seek out properly fermented low-sugar options. Plain yogurt or kefir with live cultures and no added sugars is a good starting point. Traditional sauerkraut and kimchi from reputable makers or homemade batches that use salt and thyme rather than vinegar provide live cultures and minimal additives. If you like kombucha, read labels. Opt for low-sugar, properly fermented versions or make your own to control the process. Quick swap: a spoonful of plain unsweetened kefir or a small cup of traditionally fermented kimchi at meals. Tagline: ferments, quality over label. Avocado and processed avocado products. Myth: edible skincare. Avocado has been marketed as an all-around health potion, rich in monounsaturated fats, fiber, and micronutrients that support skin, heart, and cellular membranes. The pivot: the problem is mostly about portion size and processing. Avocado is calorie-dense. When you start deep-frying avocado, smothering it in mayo-based sauces, or turning it into creamy spreads loaded with added oils and salt, you switch from a nutrient-dense whole food to a high-calorie, high-fat, and sometimes inflammatory snack that's easy to overconsume. Over time, consistent excess calories and inflammatory dietary patterns are linked to metabolic strain and markers associated with aging. Mechanism: eating too many calories, even from healthy fats, can promote overweight and metabolic disturbances that drive insulin resistance and low-grade inflammation. Processed avocado products often include added vegetable oils and emulsifiers that change the lipid profile of the food and may contribute to oxidative stress when repeatedly heated. The fix is simple. Favor whole avocado in controlled portions and be wary of restaurant avocado bombs that are deep fried or mayo drenched. Practical swaps. Use half an avocado as a spread on whole grain toast. Add slices to salads for satiety, or mash with lemon, salt, and a touch of olive oil for a fresh guacamole at home that you control. Avoid fried avocado items and creamy dips heavy on mayonnaise or extra vegetable oils. Tagline: avocado, whole, not fried. If you step back, the pattern is consistent. Context matters more than the headline. A food's reputation usually comes from a traditional form: raw olive oil, wild salmon, single origin dark cacao, homemade ferments, whole avocado. But the modern commercial or restaurant form often flips those advantages into liabilities. The mechanisms repeat: oxidation, think rust; inflammation, think clogged pipes; insulin spikes, think overworked engine; and contaminant burden, think polluted stream. Any of these can increase biomarkers linked to accelerated biological aging. None of them guarantee that you will age faster, but they nudge biological pathways in directions we typically want to avoid. Here are some practical, easy-to-remember rules you can apply every time you shop or eat out. Rule 1. Form matters more than the label. Always ask, is this the traditional form or an industrialized copy? Rule 2. Watch heat and oxidation. Reserve polyphenol-rich oils for raw uses and use stable fats for searing and frying. Rule 3. Check sugar. If a healthy packaged product has a long ingredient list with sugar near the top, treat it like candy. Rule 4. Source matters. When a food benefit relies on a nutrient profile sensitive to farming practices, prioritize wild or well-sourced options or diversify with plant-based alternatives. Rule 5. Control portions. Foods that are calorie-dense or easy to overconsume are still nutrient-dense in moderation, but repeated excess shifts metabolism toward aging pathways. To make those rules concrete, quick recaps. Olive oil, drizzle, don't fry. Salmon, choose wild, avoid deep-fried or heavily processed forms. Dark chocolate, stop eating the candy, pick 70% plus cacao in small portions. Ferments, pick live, low-sugar traditional ferments or make your own. Avocado, whole and measured, not fried or emulsified into endless dips. I want to emphasize one more time, this isn't about perfect eating or moral scoring. It's about being practical and strategic. You don't have to give up all the foods you love. You just have to be intentional about which version of the food you pick, how you prepare it, and how often it appears on your plate. Small swaps repeated over months change the body's internal environment more than big, short-lived diet swings. That's the power of context. Before we wrap up, here are 3 small, low-effort swaps you can test this week that keep the pleasure and reduce the hidden aging costs. Swap cooking olive oil for avocado oil when you sear your dinners and reserve EVO for dressings. Replace your regular candy bar chocolate with 2 squares of 75 to 85% cacao after dinner as a mindful ritual. And add a daily spoonful of plain kefir or a small serving of traditional kimchi to support your gut without the sugar. Try one of these changes for 2 weeks and pay attention to how you feel, how your cravings shift, and whether your energy is more stable through the day. If this video changed one thing you buy or a habit you've been treating as healthy without thinking, I'd love to hear about it. In the comments, tell me the healthiest sounding food you discovered was secretly aging you, or name the surprising swap you're going to try. Like this video if you found it useful, subscribe for more myth-busting, and I'll link to a deeper dive on true anti-aging foods in the description. You don't have to stop loving these foods, you just have to stop loving the wrong versions of them. Eat smarter, focus on form, and keep the benefits while avoiding the hidden costs.